Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindful Poetry Moments. I'm going to talk slowly because I can see that we are gathering guests still coming in. How is everyone today? Good. It's so good to see familiar faces. For me, a few new faces, or perhaps I just haven't been scrolling quite enough to see all you beautiful poets. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is our 5th week. We stretched Poetry Month one more week because we had such a beautiful poem that we wanted to continue to share with you. So a few things. Some of this will be repetition, and then if you're new, we just want you to hear how our time together works. In a second, I'm going to turn our program over to Sarah Yeung. And Sarah is a long-term, more than a decade collaborator with us for the True Body Project, and who has had a long career in corporate human resources. And then Sarah took a sabbatical, which has continued while Sarah develops, or essentially she's figured out that the most potent human resource is herself. So she's going to share some sound healing with us. We'll turn it over then to Eddie Gonzalez from On Being, and he's going to talk about this beautiful poem by Paul Tran called The Cave. So a little bit about Eddie. Eddie has my guess is that there's many of us who are inclined to gravitate to poetry, and the multiverse that lives within a poem might have a multiverse of background. So Eddie, I just discovered, has an MFA in creative writing, went into chaplaincy for end-of-life care, was at StoryCorps before joining On Being, where he serves as the director of engagement. So Eddie will talk about the poem, will give us a prompt, and then we'll write, and then we'll share. And then at the end, we'll come back and I'll tell you some more about our next steps with our book, future gatherings, and more time we can spend together. One more thing I wanted to mention is that thanks to On Being, we have closed captioner Cindy with us today. So if you can use the services of closed captioning, you just go down to your screen where you'll find live transcript, and you can click it so you can see what is happening in addition to hearing what is happening. I think those are my, I'll thank all of our other co-hosts when we get to the end, but I'm going to turn it over first to Sarah, and then we'll go to Eddie. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today as we celebrate, I guess, the 5 weeks that we spent together. So we'll be doing a sound meditation today together. Invite you to come to a comfortable seat, or if you prefer to lie down, feel free to do so as well. And taking a deep breath in here, breathing in, and a long exhale. Invite you to close down the eyes, or perhaps partially close down the eyelids if it feels comfortable for you. Always welcome to keep your eyes open as well if you prefer. And invite you to bring your awareness to where your body physically connects with the ground. Feeling your seat, perhaps part of your legs, your back, if you might be lying down. Feeling wherever your body is connecting with support, all the earth, and allowing your weight to drain down, sensing the support below you, and allowing your body to be held by the supports around you. And let's take 3 deep breaths here together. Breathing in through your nose as you breathe in deeply through your nose. And exhaling, perhaps a sigh or a sound might want to come out. Invite it to be there. And one more time, breathing in through the nose. And exhaling. Invite you to allow your breath to flow. No need to change anything. No need to judge. Just allowing it to be there. And I'm going to begin playing the Tibetan singing bowls or Himalayan singing bowls. There's nothing to do. An invitation to open your heart, open your mind, open your ears as you welcome the sound and the silence in between. And if you find your mind getting busy, no problem, no need to judge. Just invite your mind to come back to the next breath or perhaps the next sound. Invite you to place place your palms on your body, perhaps stacking one on top of your heart center or anywhere that feels good to you at this moment. Deepening your breath. And as you listen to the vibrations of the bowls, an invitation to also tune in for a moment. Perhaps taking a moment to switch from listening outside externally to tuning in inwards, to notice if there might be an idea, a message, or vibrations that would like to connect with you at this moment. No need to force anything, no need to judge, just an invitation as we take a moment to tune in, just as we listen outwardly. And taking a deep breath in here, breathing in and breathing out. Your eyes were closed. I invite you to gently blink your eyes open, welcoming yourselves back to the space and time that we're sharing together today, and perhaps looking around on the screen to welcome and greet each other as well. Thank you for joining me for the meditation, and I'm going to pass it to Eddie to share with us a beautiful poem.
Hi everyone, it's a joy to see you all, and I love this this exercise of looking around at all of the boxes and seeing who's here, where they are. It's great to be here with you. So I'm in Texas right now. My sister just had a baby, and I'm here sort of celebrating my introduction to being an uncle. So that's where you find me, at a little Airbnb here close to home. So today we're reading The Cave by Paul Tran. And I'll start with a reading of this poem and then do a little bit of reflection on it. And then I brought a few prompts for us to consider, and I'll walk through those whenever we're ready. So this is The Cave. Someone standing at the mouth had the idea to enter, to go further than light or language could go. As they followed the idea, light and language followed like two wolves, panting, hearing themselves panting. A shapeless scent in the damp air. Keep going, the idea said. Someone kept going. Deeper and deeper they saw others had been there. Others had left objects that couldn't have found their way there alone. Ochre-stained shells, bird bones, grounded hematite. On the walls, as if stepping into history, someone saw their purpose. Cows, bulls, bison, deer, horses, some pregnant, some slaughtered. The wild, life seemed wild and alive, moving when someone moved, casting their shadows on the shadows, stretching in every direction. Keep going, the idea said again. Go. Someone continued. They followed the idea so far inside that outside was another idea. So I love this poem. And when Stacy invited me to think about which poem I might present, this was an easy one for me to choose for a variety of reasons. The first one that I'll lift up is that there's, the way that I see it, a spirituality to this poem. There's a sense of mystery and uncertainty that's just woven throughout it. Krista Tippett, who's the founder of the project that I work on, said, our spiritual lives are where we reckon head on with the mystery of ourselves and the mystery of each other. And I do feel like this poem has so much to do with that sense of mystery of ourselves, and also there's a presence of other people. There's this solitude that's in the poem, the sense that someone is entering into a cave on their own, and also recognizing that there have been people there before, but that the journey really that you're a part of in this poem is one of solitude taken by themselves. Although there's also an awareness of this inner life that's taking place. There's an idea that's speaking, so it's not completely solitude either. There's a voice, this keep going, and the voice is almost there's a ghost-like quality of it. And I feel like there are a few haunting things that are in this poem that I was really drawn to. One of them is sort of the echoes that you hear throughout. So you'll hear the shadows on shadows, the two wolves following, panting, and that panting shows up multiple times. But even just the objects and the things that you hear in the poem, the two wolves themselves. You also have the presence of bird bones and horses, some pregnant, some slaughtered. There's the sense of the wild and these shadows once again. I was thinking too, when I found out that Sarah was going to be playing the Tibetan and Himalayan singing bowls, how resonant, quote unquote, it is. The shapes of these instruments are like caves themselves, and the sounds resonating. There's this outer sort of physical sound that's also inviting us to go inward. So what a beautiful way to start today. Another thing I'd wanted to lift up was this sense of myth and ancestry infused through the poem. So caves are these sort of like archetypal symbols, right? And they're these symbols that you see appear throughout different stories, throughout different poems. There's a connection in the symbol of a cave to the earth, to geological time, right? The earth taking shape over long, vast periods of time. And then there's these ancestral pieces that are there too, that within the cave as a place where sacred rituals might have taken place, where folks have been painting on the walls things that give their lives purpose. In the sense of ancestry too, there's a sense of gifts that have been handed down, resources that are maybe left to us for our own personal journeys, things that folks have learned, maybe pieces of wisdom and even stories. Stacy had mentioned a background in stories, and I used to write a lot of short stories and along with poems, but I also used to record oral histories of people that would tell stories. And I had a mentor who said something that I just loved one time. She said, you've asked a great question whenever you ask it and the person says, huh, and they look off into space. And she says, that's a great question because they don't have a ready-made answer for it. They're having to put words to the answer and trying to search for what that thing might be. And when I thought about this idea of myth, there's this sense of being part of a larger ongoing story that others had been there before, and now I'm sort of picking up that journey after others have been there. And that it's intergenerational, that there's a sense of like, here's what I've experienced, this is what I'm giving to you, and what have you experienced, as an exchange that's taking place across experience and also across generations. I want to come back really quick to this idea of fear too, and what might be haunting. The sense that there are these uncertain things in the poem, or what might be further on in the cave, and keep going, this encouragement to go further. A lot of thinking recently in conversations that I've been hearing have dealt with courage and hope, and how difficult both of those things can feel in a really tender moment. But also that the presence of fear is actually like piece and parcel of courage, that there is no courage without that sense of vulnerability and fear. And in a similar way, ideas of hope, that the things that would challenge us, the things that would feel like they could break us, are actually what ends up making us in the end, and give us experiences where we can lean in and say, I've been through this before. I have a sense of hope that I can go through something difficult again and come out the other side. There's a quote from Joseph Campbell, who was big into myth, and I thought it was so relevant to this point. He says, where you stumble, there lies your treasure. The very cave you are afraid to enter turns out to be the source of what you were looking for. the damned thing in the cave that was so dreaded has become the center. So the sense too that walking into what might be uncomfortable or fearful is actually perhaps a part of healing and a part of growing and emerging into some of the things that we might, the world that we might like to see. So I'll just offer quickly a bit of personal connection and then lead into a prompt here. And one is that, Paul Tran identifies as transgender. And one of the things that Padraig pointed out in this episode of Poetry Unbound when he looked at this poem was that they use very gender neutral pronouns and words when describing who is walking into the cave. So someone is walking into the cave and they are seeing these things and experiencing and hearing. It's sort of a querying of this, the word caveman that a lot of times we think of when we think of someone who's in a cave. And this conversation around gender identity and how it relates to this sort of cave, that there are others that have been there before, and now I'm here seeing what has been left, that there's an ongoing conversation, right, across people who have explored, across people who have lived before and have been in this cave. And so bringing self-identity and experience to the conversation became something that was really important for me when looking at this. My grandmother was modeling this for me the other day. She said how over time her concepts and ideas of what it meant to be a woman, this is still going on with gender, but how that role has shifted and what it means to be in a marriage has shifted over time, different than the ways that her parents were raised, and they had certain concepts of what those roles might be, than the way that she was raised. And even as she began her marriage and where she is now, talking about how that has emerged. So this ongoing conversation through time of things like identity and gender. And this can be expanded, right, into conversations around race and ethnicity, around age and ability and religious and spiritual life and sexual orientation, and also just our life experiences and roles when we talk about our work lives or our family lives, our friendships, our community roles. So in this sense, I was thinking, if I were to write a poem about a cave this week, what might it be about? And I told you my sister just had a baby. And she and her wife are really entering into a cave of their own, learning what it is to be mothers and learning what it is in a way that they are trying to navigate this, their identities being mothers in a world that might not fully have a roadmap for what that looks like for them in terms of our family. And so they're reaching out to folks that are in different parts of the United States and different parts of the world that are giving them insight into how to live this life. And they're learning on their own as they go. So they're kind of seeing the objects of what is there and putting the pieces together. So the prompts that I had for you today, and just like how we learn from other people and learning from our own lives, I wanted to invite you in just a couple of short prompts, and then we'll go into the full writing time. So the first one is just taking maybe a minute and jotting down some objects. If you think about your life in this moment, the cave of your life, what are some of the objects that are around you that you want to kind of lift up and say, here are the things that are in the cave of my life in this moment? And we can just list them down as objects that are in our lives. And they might find your way into the poem. So just take a minute.
I'm literally on a call, on a Zoom call right now.
All right. The second prompt that I'll give you is thinking about ancestors and people who have come before you. If your ancestors were to speak to you right now, what might they say? And maybe create some lines of dialogue that you would want to bring into your poem today. All right. And so now to move into the poem. So we have a sort of started to till the soil just a bit. My question that I want to introduce as we head in, and I'll give a couple of lines to start, is where in your life are you being invited into mystery or uncertainty? What are some of these areas that are feeling like a cave right now? Perhaps something you're being invited to live that you don't have much of a roadmap for, or a part of life that feels like unfamiliar terrain. It could be a place of grief or heartbreak, something that you're recognizing recently, perhaps because it can't be fixed, but also it can't be avoided. Or maybe it's a place of excitement and new possibilities, something that just feels really energizing and an inspiration that feels new. Thinking about what that thing might be, the prompt that I'll offer today is I kept going, deeper and deeper I saw, and then you can move on from there. I'm also learning from some folks that it's sometimes helpful to distance from the I. And if that makes sense, feel free to use the prompt, someone kept going, deeper and deeper they saw. And feel free to weave in some of those objects and things that you've written down in this time. And we'll come back in, Stacy.
You guys, everyone's been doing amazing with the 10 minutes. So we'll go for 10 minutes. I'll do the timing on my end.
All right, see you then.
Okay. We have a couple more minutes. I'll be back in 2 minutes to chime us into our sharing portion. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Wow, that was such a fun prompt or series of prompts. I'm really excited to hear what comes up for everyone. So the way we're going to do this is read your work in whatever form it lands. It doesn't have to be complete. If you could do two things, or at the very least, Steve. Oh. Okay, hang on. Hear me now? Better? Okay, sorry guys. We're going to ask you to write in the chat if you would like to read. And if you could also, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should have something that says reactions. And if you look, there might be something that says raise hand. And I just raised the hand on mine. That helps Ro find you to unmute you. And if you can't find it, don't worry, we'll still find you. So go ahead and in the chat, if you would like to read, let us know.
All right. So I'm seeing Andrew volunteering.
Hello.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. You ready?
I can hear you. Yeah, great.
Sure, I'll do the main prompt. Something came closer and closer. My goals, my dreams, reality. My existence is not a caveat, past stuck in one, lots of strife. I overcame. My boy, my little engineer, Grandpa Paul, called me, do me proud. Grandma always has a special place in her heart for me. I listened virtual temple services, Mihamoka, song of Jewish people crossing the sea to what now is Israel. And that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
My goal, my dreams, reality, my existence, not yet a cave. One thing I'm recognizing is in the prompt at the very beginning, just sort of the objects and some of the things that we might hear. You had mentioned my little engineer. That there are these, it's almost like floating, these different pieces, these different objects, these different words, and how just being attuned to these different things is a form of contemplation, even though we might not be in one physical or like
Yes.
home space. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's see. Amy.
All right. I kept going deeper and deeper. I saw honeycombs broken, spilling golden sap, collecting as sticky syrup, a puddle of promise on the deep, dark floor, and piles of keys collected on rings, a cloud of clues raining as my ancestors hum, rattle, rattle, rattle for other prisoners. There's old lace and broken promises and golden, gaudy opera glasses. And still they say, you're further along than you think. Keep going. Keep going.
Thank you. This image of the keys. I don't know if you've been listening to Fetch the Bolt Cutters, an album that just recently came out, but there's a line in a song from this album. And she said, basically pointing to people that have stolen her fun. And she says, fetch the bolt cutters. I've been in here too long. And that idea, it's like these keys rattle. I just hear that invitation, and you're further along than you think. Thank you. Wow. Stacy, I see that you have also offered, but I'm noticing here, do you want to wait a little bit? I know a lot of
Absolutely. We'll just see if there's time. Let's let everyone go.
Great. Looking at raised hands here, I'm also seeing Emily.
Thank you. A root grew from my sacrum, kept going toward the earth, deeper and deeper. A trowel had hacked at it. Hands had twisted my chest and hips to loosen it, me from the compost. There was severance from my clothed body to this root, and the root was dying in the harsh sun of youth. Out of the earth, the gills of this root had begun to dry, get dusty. The lungs of this body had started to turn to dust too. My Grandpa Jack's lungs turned to dust. After years of Marlboros and martinis, dirty limericks, and flirtations with all things feminine, his lungs had turned to dust. Dust as he still laughed at the beauty of a carrot pulled from his garden, a peace sign mowed in his yard. Digging this new hole, replanting this root, spackling the hacked place with face cream and supporting it with pattern blocks and holding it all together with a hand knit neck warmer. Taking the junior mints from the top drawer of the bureau as medicine and replacing Gray's Anatomy with books where women are like wolves and we lived in circles. I saw a path forward.
Wow. Gosh, there was so rich, so much in that poem. One of the things that really stuck out to me was the gills of the root, and the kind of honoring too a sense of the strangeness in the poem, the cave, and that was one of those moments where I'm like, oh yes. And these moments too of the details, the Marlboros, the martinis, the peace sign in the yard, mode in the yard, how those just give us such great insight. Thank you. Amy, Amy Hunkler. I'm noticing I said Amy earlier and you might have been thinking it was my turn. So
Okay. I kept going deeper. The dirt bike, its many spokes twirling, meshing into one, my tires crunching, the air stiff, like starch in my father's shirts, clean, the mud twisting in the ruts I create, no ruts before me. They are even clean so that I stop, cup it like a chalice sacred in my hands and smear the dirt, streaking myself with all the odor of the untamed, my hair untangled and loosened from my braids, flowing now. I am the 10-year-old with the wild mane of hair, the speed of my bike entering the sound barrier and a clap resounding, pulling me back, but I keep going faster till Doppler's cry spells tears, and I understand why.
thank you. I love this idea of going deeper on a dirt bike.
I used to like to do that.
Yes. There was also the moment in there where the air was like the starched shirt. Yeah, beautiful details. Thank you. Let's see, Nina Lewis.
Hi, can you hear? So my screen's gone funny, and so it looks like everybody's cameras are off, and I don't know if they are. Anyway.
We can hear you.
Okay. No one has a road map. There's no road, only this slender trail of breadcrumbs, dropped absently as thoughts escape the silent confines of inside. Make it out, an external run for mercy. Even your thoughts don't want to think this way. So you still yourself for a moment, lie on the floor of your deep dark cave and listen to your breathing until you have become your own expanding lung. You're a body part, diminished in size, excelled in purpose. Keep breathing. You needn't close your eyes when all you can see looks the same as the back of your eyelids. The peace which rises from this moment brings your ancestors' voice, like the echo of a singing bowl. Accept yourself, he says. Accept yourself. Accept this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Accept yourself. There was the line too. No need to close your eyes when, where was it? When all you can see looks the same as the backs of your eyelids. That inner outer life is coming back again here. Thank you so much. Sandra Hall.
Hey,
Hey.
how you doing? I'm so blown over or blown away by how many words people can put down in 10 minutes. I'm not as prolific, but here we go. The maw of the cave beckons. I enter. Those who have come before still reside here, palpable, teacups, pillows, manuscripts appear and disappear like ghosts. This cave, she swallows light, footsteps, sons, daughters. She cares nothing for consequence. I go deeper and carry nothing I am unwilling to leave behind. Windows, doors, blankets, ancestors. We lived with less, they say. You have more than you know.
Mm. We lived with less. You have more than you know. Thank you. Hadley, see your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. At the threshold, before me, a dark corridor, behind me, muffled tongues like tears, and I stand stock still, afraid to step through the doorway and not wanting to turn back. Childhood magnolias prodding me on, a wooden spoon for a sword, one toe forward, spoon outstretched, touching the dark. My stomach a nautical knot. Behind me, I hear stagnant sorrow lapping at my heels. Before me, fog dismembers my voice. I call out, 7 echoes I hear back, all saying yes, yes, yes. I hear the voice of my dead mother, a clot in my heart, a last yes. I step into the new, yes upon my tongue.
Thank you. The childhood magnolia prodding me and the wooden spoon for a sword. Beautiful details. And the new yes upon my tongue. Aaron.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So here's one. It's in reference to the cave, what I might find at the end of the cave. It's a poem that I wrote a while ago. It's called Written. Here we go. Graciously, yes. Nothing is a word until written. Then you have perspective, gladness, gracious, whole. We cannot repeat the same words or we would lose our bearings. Stars align, laying down tracks for another occurrence. Yes, yes, at Gila Monster.
Thank you. The attention to language here. That what I might find at the end of the cave, nothing is a word until written, then you have perspective, gladness, yes. Gracious, whole. And that invitation, we cannot repeat the same words. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Troy. Oh, I don't think I can hear you yet.
All right, can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Okay. I don't keep things on my phone calendar. That just keeps, let me start again. I don't keep things on my phone calendar. That just makes me nervous, she said as we finished troubleshooting the missed interview. Well, do you keep a paper calendar, he asked. I don't remember which calendar I put what in, she replied innocently. You don't decide to keep one calendar? The deeper they went, the deeper they saw how they saw differently. The ancestors, wide-eyed and squinty alike, laughing knowingly. The father letting go of his daughter, falling headfirst into adulthood. Impeccably pointed purple eyeliner, curly hair furling, a bouquet of friendship that rivals any high school memory of his. And his smartphone reminding him of appointments, deposits due for her fall semester, when to pause and breathe, who he holds space for in prayer, his Airbnb reservations for a romantic summer getaway, goals for growing business or losing weight. Eventually his phone will be retired in the junk drawer with all the others. And the bits and bytes are unearthed and read. Will anyone be able to mark the date when his heart was pumping with terror and amazement at the horizon of this daughter making her way to young civilization?
Thank you, Troy. I love this this calendar as the entry to the poem, and the differences too that sometimes we recognize in one another as we are on this path, and can be things like a calendar and our devices and junk drawers eventually ending up there. I'm not sure that I heard every little bit of that. It was a little quiet there for a bit, so, but thank you.
Let's see if we can squeeze in Evangelos before we do our closing.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Do you hear me? Okay. So here it goes. I kept going, deeper and deeper I saw. I heard. I always remembered your voice. Not a single voice, but a collective one. All of you wanted to advise me. Everyone said, carry on, look forward. You wanted the best for your descendants. And before we knew, we admired and clinged to the past. So wrong. We looked only the present, objects and emptiness to fill ourselves. Incapable for a future, nostalgic about the past. Easier to be blind than see. But at last, after being immersed in the darkness, slowly, painfully, surpassing short-sightedness, fake scents and flowers, I saw, I see.
Thank you. After that period, I saw and I see. Beautiful. Y'all, thank you so much for engaging this prompt and this poem. And what a pleasure to have heard and just been here to hear what you all created. Stacy, I know you have a couple of comments, but so much gratitude.
And our gratitude back to you, Eddie, for the really the way you helped us enter into our own poem. At least from what I could hear in my own writing, I felt like it was such a gracious prompt. And also thanks to you for being our human representative of the glory that is on being and the poems that we get to study. So a quick note about what happens next for our group. First of all, you're going to be getting an email that will give you some information about today's event. And then within no more than a week, you're going to get an email from us, which invites you to submit poems that you've worked on over these 5 weeks, inspired by our prompts, so we can produce another book of our work together. And we'll make it really clear how you do that. You can send us one for each week. We might ask you to let us know if we have to limit which ones are your favorite, but we'll make it really easy for you. The next time we gather, we thought it would be super fun to gather as a poetry reading book launch. So when the book is ready, we'll all come back together and we'll listen to the poems again. You will be our visiting poets, all of our guests. So that will be somewhere in late June, early July is my guess, maybe even mid-July by the time we produce the book. We will definitely let you know. Sorry, I got distracted over by cool things happening in the chat. Don't be so interesting while I'm trying to talk. No, I'm kidding. You can talk about whatever you want. So, oh, I lost my place. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to have our summer reading, and then we're going to come back together monthly, studying another poem from the next season of Poetry Unbound. And once we get those dates scheduled, we'll let everyone know. So before we sign off with another reading of this beautiful poem, a couple of things. That this space wouldn't be possible without On Being. So we're so grateful to Padrego Tuma, Poetry Unbound, Eddie Gonzalez, and the team at On Being. I'm super grateful for Ro Schnorr, Chief of Staff, Chief of All Things, for keeping all things organized, soulful, mindful, and in flow. I'm also so thankful for Amy Tuttle from Wordplay, if you could wave at us, Troy Bronsink from The Hive, Amy Hunter from the Mercantile Library. So we'll find a way for you to come to the library, even if it's half virtual, half in person, as well as all of our gorgeous visiting meditation friends, including Sarah Yeung. In the email, we're going to tell you about an event coming up for the well, where we're trying to co-create in a visual way what a well world looks like. And Sarah will be there, and we have an announcement to make at that gathering. So we hope you'll come to that as well. I guess one final thing is that I feel like we're all so grateful for each other. You know, we started during the pandemic together, and these friendships and these poems that have been created are nothing short of astonishing. And so I'm just so grateful to each of you for showing up, continuing to show up. I was just telling someone today that we get to know a little bit of who you are. Wade with the different backdrops, Emily in a minivan writing poetry while her children are doing the things that children do. And all of the rest of you who we just can't wait to continue to know in these strange, intimate gatherings and through the lens of poetry. Eddie, I'm going to turn it back over to you. So perhaps you might want to say a few words on behalf of On Being and yourself, and then you can read us out with a poem.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's not much more to say other than what Stacy has just so beautifully said about just being part of this lovely community, for you all showing up every week, for the poems that you all have created. It's both been a pleasure in terms of the poetry and also the company. So thank you for making this happen. And check out Poetry Unbound. The new season is out. It's coming every Monday and Friday if you have a chance to listen. Those will be the sources for the poems that we'll use in the months ahead. So in that spirit, I'll come back and read the poem one last time. Thank you again for being here. So The Cave by Paul Tran. Someone standing at the mouth had the idea to enter, to go further than light or language could go. As they followed the idea, light and language followed like two wolves, panting, hearing themselves panting. A shapeless scent in the damp air. Keep going, the idea said. Someone kept going, deeper and deeper. They saw others had been there. Others had left objects that couldn't have found their way there alone. Ochre-stained shells, bird bones, grounded hematite. On the walls, as if stepping into history, someone saw their purpose. Cows, bulls, bison, deer, horses, some pregnant, some slaughtered. The wild life seemed wild and alive, moving when someone moved, casting their shadows on the shadows, stretching in every direction. Keep going, the idea said again. Go. Someone continued. They followed the idea so far inside that outside was another idea. Thank you all.
Oops, Ro, would you mind unmuting everybody so we can say a proper out loud goodbye? Are we able to do that?
Yeah, everyone can unmute now if they'd like.
Okay, let's unmute and let's
All
say
right.
actual like we're leaving.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Care.
So much. It was fun.